Hey, left, right, out. Just doing another video, just relaxing. It's super hot out. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the markets and what's going on. A couple of key numbers that have come out and some forecasts from folks that we like to listen to because they're that's where the markets are perception. So we'll start with the markets. They've been fairly resilient. They're like today we're talking about almost a 1% gain in the S&P. We're at 4160. It's pretty incredible. We look at the bond market. We're almost at a 3% 10-year. That will pop up above there. It's been playing around that area. Very volatile debt, U.S. debt market. When you look at the yields on this thing, I mean, they're incredible moves. I'm surprised people aren't talking about it as much as they should, because over historical terms, these moves are essentially unprecedented. I think it dipped all the way to 277 recently, and then now it's back. It went over. There's like 3.07. Now it's 297. I mean, it's all over the place, and it that starting to raise alarm barrels. Maybe not just because we're looking for that shoot up in yield on the 10-year, but the fact that it's the volatility, the standard deviation of the movements of this is just they're widening, and it's interesting. It's interesting. We're looking at oil at about 120. I go over here, gas is at an all-time high. Go over here, you see diesel prices still sitting at about 520 here to 540, 550 where I'm at right now. I've seen some as high as $9 in California, and then other places $6, $7. Obviously, that's for the U.S. That's fairly unsustainable when you look at the cost of moving goods around the nation. I go into this is anecdotal evidence by the way, as I've said before in the past. I go into the Walmarts and whatnot, and now I'm starting to see the shelves are empty again in various. Like I said, it's kind of rolling. So at any given time, what I've noticed in like Walmart and other essential good stores, which are food and various items like that, at any time we're looking at a 10 to 20% supply shortage, or just like barren shelves or whatnot, which is more like we're like Venezuela light at this point. In my opinion, we're moving towards that. But here's the interesting thing. We'll start off with the Atlanta Fed cutting their GDP number, which we all know GDP is kind of a massage number to begin with. We look at how they come up with a deflator. I mean, I don't know, but it is what the market perception, and is how their perception, everybody's perception, becomes a kind of a pseudo reality in a sense, at least in the short term. So if we post a negative number, which it kind of looks like there's a good chance that we could post another negative GDP number. Technically, that'd be 2 in a row, and that'd be the recession that we all know that we're already in, to be totally honest. So that was enlightening in the market. I don't know the movement there. It almost seemed like that the bad news was good news, is that's more of a bluff call to the Fed in itself, that possibly the market's now pricing in the fact that once we post this number, the Fed's going to come to the rescue, even though we know inflation and part of that monetary induced dislocation and supply chains and whatnot is all part of the same phenomenon, that they really can't go into that mode yet. They have to at least go into QT a little bit, and like I said, raise another half point, and then like my call has been, everything starts really collapsing once they do that, and you get to 125 is about as much as the market can take. And then once you get above that, you start pushing these other yields, and you start seeing these companies, their capital structures based off of such low interest rates. You start seeing bankruptcies or people going out of business. You start seeing that collapse, and then not only that, the price, the supply destruction. You start seeing some other things, so you get that the stagflation. Anyway, I don't want to get into that too much because we're gonna go over a few things. I want to keep this kind of short. But anyway, despite all that, there's plenty of people that talk about that. But here's a number. So earlier today, I was thinking, I need to really delve into consumer credit, because right now we're getting into QT. We're starting to see where the Fed's getting ready to raise interest rates again, a half a point, which we're in a crisis right now anyway. I don't know why they're waiting so long. Already been there, talked about that. But anyway, they're getting ready to do that. And I'm like, the markets are going up. There's a lot of other things that are indicative of monetary expansion. So I'm like, well, why aren't the markets? I want to look in the consumer credit side of things, the consumer side of things. And before I could even get in there, here comes an article about the latest numbers. And it was on Zero Hedge. If you don't look on there, there's a lot of good stuff on there. But it was shocking credit, consumer credit numbers. Everyone's maxing out their credit card. Well, yeah, okay. It really is. We look at, and of course they present some charts here. We got total consumer credit near all-time highs. Of course, the all-time high number was just recently anyway. We're still near all-time highs, well above previous all-time highs. We look at non-revolving credit, close to all-time highs. We look at revolving credit. We are right there, the second highest print ever. The other one was recently as well. We couple that number, which is take total consumer credit, which is off the charts at this point. But then we couple that number because you can maybe overlay some other causation to it, right? Or maybe draw some other conclusions when you see some kind of number like that in isolation. But when we take that with personal savings, which is plummeting, like you look at the chart on there, the slope on this thing is incredible. It is incredibly onto the downside, and personal savings is going it's going hard down. And you couple that together, and it's not very good. It is basically, you can read into that the people are now trying to, instead of grappling with these inflationary and supply chain pressures, they are, instead of buckling down, they are trying to keep the present lifestyle by burdening themselves in the future with more debt, and it's just incredible. It's a train wreck. So we will see, and especially because it's a wonder, because credit card interest rates are going up as well, along with mortgage rates and everything, because interest rates in general are going. Everything's based off these risk-free rates and how the Fed runs things there. So credit card rates are up, and it's like, well, if you're paying 20, 25%, 30% on a credit card, I mean, this is going to hurt people. I'm at a lack of words for how troublesome this data is, to be totally honest. Because if you look at what has been reported, how we base our how the economic system is currently structured, 70% consumer driven, and you look at these kind of numbers, it is very very troublesome. So on that regard, I mean, I guess that was all I really wanted to talk about today is that. I guess I mentioned that I went, the fuel prices where I'm at, we're still looking at diesel really high, well above $5. I go into places like the Walmart and other consumer discretionary items, or in the grocery store, things that people need. It's at any given time, there's 10 to 20% shelves cleared. Granted, those items change. I keep mentioning the pasta thing, because I see a shift, and I've shifted myself from meats and whatnot and eggs more to that, because that's a cheaper alternative than as the meat prices go up. And I've seen another price hike in meats where I'm at, specifically beef, and then the eggs are 6. You get 5 dozen eggs for $15, which is incredibly high. I used to get that for 6 something. But the beef thing is interesting, because I've heard anecdotally and from what I follow from the ranching community, that there's been a huge dump on the market of cattle, which you'd think that in itself would lower prices in the short term, which that is a pricing pressure downward. But for some reason, they're flooding the market, and the prices are only stabilizing at best. The problem is we look at the next year's replacement crop, the calf crop that's coming up this next year, and it doesn't, from what I've heard, they're not replacing the cows that they're dumping right now to the same extent, or they need to, or to the extent that they need to, and that's something that's going to be felt within over the next year. So those are more pricing pressures, more supply chain shocks, or I wouldn't say supply shocks in the system that will be felt down the line. But you see people shifting off of certain food items, going to lower priced food items that are not necessarily the equivalent. You're talking about meat-based protein towards more of a carbohydrate. I mean, it's not, anyway, that's something else. But those are things you got to look at. You have Biden's flailing around trying to address some of these issues. And somehow we're going to build like solar panels or something to address this energy crisis. Doesn't make any sense. I mean, we're lacking leadership. We're lacking a lot of things. The other thing is we'll talk about the Russia thing, because I was off by 7 days, okay? Remember I said that Russia will take over the eastern part of Ukraine pretty much completely by the end of the month, and they'll just be smaller skirmishes, but the overall objective of land-wise will be completed by the end of May. Well, it happened a week later. The Kremlin declares land bridge complete from western Ukraine, Donbass to Crimea, so they can resume normal travel, I guess, from in those areas. So now you're just going to see more than likely a lot of skirmishes, maybe minuscule land grabs or whatever, but you're going to start seeing more of a, I guess, whatever their secondary operations are to rebuild infrastructure or whatever in these regions. And like I said, they're more than likely, referendum-wise, going to just become part of Russia. But in that regard, here's the other crazy thing that's going on that's going to prolong this instead of just, trying to initiate peace talks. Biden and now the UK are giving longer capability range missiles to the Ukrainians. All the while, the Russians have said if these missiles are used inside their territory, they will look at it as a provocation and there will be ramifications. So it's like, why would you send this stuff over there anyway? The war has been determined, in my opinion, and maybe the Russians haven't met the objectives that the West has set for them, but the Russians have met the objectives that the Russians have set for themselves. And this is I don't know what we're doing over there sending weapons. I mean, you want to disarm us, but we're sending some advanced weaponry over there, sending just regular small arms or whatever. These things are not going to just be held in Ukrainian hands. These things are going to get sold in the black market. More than likely, we will see them in battle, our own guys, down the line. And I guess, I think Michael Malice said it about the Taliban, but I'll say that all I ask on gun rights things is to be able to have the same weapons that I paid for the Ukrainians and the Taliban and the Islamo-fascists and all the terrorist organizations that we have funded and all the weapons we bought for them. I just want those weapons. The ability to at least own those weapons. And actually, really, all I ask for is my AR-15 and a few other things. Just leave me alone. And that weapon itself is harmless, unless it's the mind behind that weapon that really matters. But anyway, I think I talked about that last time. Is the incompetency of these people and the lack of understanding of weaponry or firearms. But anyway, yeah. So the Russian thing, land bridge to Crimea, and that's what I believe their intent was from the outset. Or if anything, they shifted it. But originally they said denazification, and then to liberate these provinces, because there's been a war there since 2014, and now we're looking at it with the West using it as pretty much a money laundering scheme. I mean, they were using it before that way. Now it's just like we're shipping all these weapons over there, and God knows what else is going on in Ukraine. To be totally honest, when the war is there, one of the things, law and order tend to be like a fuzzy line, let's just say. So I'm sure there's a lot of individuals, elites that are using this to their advantage, not only the defense contractors. Anyway, I want to, my next video, so I'm going to end it here, but I want to say there's a movie that you ought to see, and that is Top Gun. I saw it. I'll talk about it, probably another video. Excellent movie. And thank God for Tom Cruise, because finally there's a movie that's makes you feel good to be American again, and gives you that sense of pride and what we've all longed for. He stayed along the lines of like that old 80s, 90s movies where it's just like it's kind of funny, but at the same time it's awesome. I mean, when you look at the plot, like just how it's like the same thing as like an 80s, 90s movie, but it's in a good way, right? But anyway, talk to you later. Peace.